your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. Today's program is going to be a lot of fun because well, today's program, if you want to put it in this context, it's going to the dogs. And I do that on purpose with our very special guest. He is a veterinarian in Viejo Valley, and Dr. Doug Coward is our guest. He is a veterinarian who has written a very interesting book. I hope that you will take some time to get a copy of it. The title of the book has to do with unlocking lasting wellness, holistic tips for pets and their humans with healing both ends of the leash, which is, by the way, the title of the book, Healing Both Ends of the Leash. And we thank you so much, Doc, for being with us. It's great to have you here. I will also tell you that I've shared this with our listeners before. My best friend of 53 years, who passed away a few years ago on May 1st, his name was Doug, and we had a great time. You know, I haven't shed a tear at his passing because the life that we lived together, the fun that we just had too much fun. We laughed all the time. It was great. I do miss being able to talk with him verbally, but, you know, I know that he's listening. And so it's good to have you with us, especially when it comes to having pets in our lives. And in this case, I know you're focusing primarily on dogs, but you know, pets in our lives, whatever you choose or whatever the universe chooses for you, that's a pretty important element to incorporate, isn't it? There's almost an essential aspect that we need it. There's something we crave, that contact with other creatures. Aside from humans, that's important too, but animals seem to play a big role, don't they?
Well, they have in my life. You know, I've kind of been attracted to them since I was a kid, both, especially wildlife. That's what I really liked being around. But I had my first cat when I was probably 4, dogs when I was 5, and numerous pets after that. But I just lived to see wildlife in wild places, and that's what I expected to be doing. And I am not. I am about 180 degrees from what I planned on doing. But in the book, I tried to put a little bit for everybody who loves pets. So there's a couple stories about birds, quite a few stories about cats too, and certainly the majority are about dogs. Got a few about snakes and other creatures. I have book 2 that's just about done, and that has a lot of the crazy things that go on, especially in the spiritual world with animals. I left that out for the second book, but they do an unbelievable amount for our lives. I'll be the first to witness that.
Well, I know from firsthand experience the effect they have had on my blood pressure. I used to take medications for blood pressure. I don't anymore. And it's not because we didn't have animals in our lives. It was for other reasons as well. There were some other stressors going on, but I will tell you that they probably saved my life by helping to keep it at least lower than it would have been if they had not been in our lives. At one point, we had 30 or 40 chickens when we lived in Santa Barbara up on the mountain. When we had the maximum number of cats also up on the mountain in a little cottage, about 1,000 to maybe 1,100 square feet, we had 9 cats at one time. We had a blue-tongued skank. I call it a snake with legs. We had a tortoise. We back in Phoenix, where I met my present wife, we actually had a angelfish, and it got distressed and everything. And I tell you, you can get emotional even over a fish. I mean, we cried over this, and we're both Reiki masters. And we began giving it Reiki, and it helped for a while. I mean, eventually the goldfish did pass. But when we started seeing it floating in the water on its side, we were going, something's not right here. And, we've had, that's kind of the extent of our menagerie, our zoo, if you will. The health and well-being, I mean, that is a huge deal, sometimes a huge expense. I would venture, would you say that if you can find some fairly inexpensive pet insurance, especially when the animal is young, if it's older, it's going to cost you more, that's a wise thing to do to take care of this precious member of your family. And that's what a lot of people, how they look at it. This is a member of our family. This isn't just a dog or a cat or a fish or a bird. This is an integral part, and we would not do anything more or less for the dog or cat or fish or bird than we would do for our own children, human children, right?
That's the way things are. And right now, this new generation below us doesn't even know what a doghouse is. If they were to see it, they go, "What's that?" And I know growing up, we had a doghouse. My grandfather was a Southerner, and the dogs lived outside and have a job. But nowadays, they're on our bed, or else they're under the covers in many cases. So they're definitely moved into the family status. I have so many really sweet, wonderful clients who love their spouses, love their kids, but they go, "This is my best friend. I love him more than anybody." And the kids go, "She does," or "He does." So it's true. They've really become an integral part of our life, no matter what type of pet it is. I've had all kinds like you have too. And each one you get attached to and kind of recognize the spirit inside them and what they do for us, whether it's a turtle or a poodle. Or in your case, cats.
Actually, I also should have said that we did have birds. We had a lovebird. We called him Merlin, and then of course when we got this cat, we called him Merlin too. What was so interesting about Merlin, the bird, my wife, my present wife, had 4 Siberian Huskies. They were a sled dog team, right? And somehow they managed to break open the double French doors from the backyard. And they got into the house and they knocked over the bird cage. And and they, we thought, got a hold of the bird and ate it. But we were having Easter dinner out on the patio. And we looked up at the telephone pole that was near the house from the backyard. And we then found out that there was actually a flock of lovebirds, and my wife knew what Merlin looked like. And there he was, sitting up there with the other lovebirds. It's amazing, the resilience of animals in some instances. I got to.
Well, that's a much better happy ending than I thought. Usually it's something gets in and eats them or something like that in front of us, which is terrible.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. It's extraordinary. It truly is extraordinary. The impact they play. Talk to us about this book that you've written. You've got a lot of great information and stories in it. What and the answer to the question probably goes, self-evident, if you will, as far as the answer. But what compelled you to want to put this down into print for folks, and it probably for yourself as well?
Yeah, it's quite the long story. Initially, I went to vet school to be a wildlife vet, and there weren't any jobs. Unfortunately, I found one working for a wildlife dermatologist in Long Beach, but a lot of what we saw were dogs and cats. And he immediately told me, there's the right way, the wrong way, the UC Davis way, and his way, and we will do everything his way. He was a World War II vet who got his leg blown off in Okinawa on the first day of battle. He had a pig leg. He looked like a pirate. So I knew nothing about dogs and cats hardly. I was only, trying to learn about wild dogs and tigers and those type of cats. So he was a great mentor. And he was the first one who mentioned he had figured out food could prevent cats in particular from having a brutal surgery, perineal urethrostomy, where they actually had their male unit cut off because it was so scarred in. And he felt it was from eating processed food or kibble. But he was just in a private practice, so nobody believed him. But, I kind of listened. And then I saw a dog at a winery up in Northern California, or Central California, on the way to Santa Barbara, Paso Robles. And this dog looked unbelievable. He was so healthy. And I'd spent a year traveling back from Australia. I'd been living in Australia for 5 years playing basketball, and then spent a year just wandering to see wildlife. And I'd seen incredible wildlife. And this dog looked like wildlife. His coat was glistening. He's racing around the winery like he swallowed a jet engine. And it turned out he belonged to the wine pourer. And my wife and her sister were there sampling wine, and I was watching the kids. I said, "That's the healthiest dog I've seen." And she remarked that if the stupid vets have their way, he'd be dead. So everybody points the finger at me. And I go, "Sorry, what did we do?" And her dog was only 4 months old and was crippled with hip dysplasia, where the hip sockets are formed incorrectly. We were taught to do surgery on them to give them new hips. And when I asked her, what happened, she said, well, her vet said, "This poor dog's going to suffer. You should take him back to the breeder and get a new one." And then she learned the breeder was going to euthanize this dog, and she loved this dog, so she grabbed her dog. And this is in the 80s. There was no Google or no internet. So she had heard through the grapevine that there was a chiropractor up in Monterey who could fix these dogs. So I got her number, and I called her up, and she read me the riot act. She said, "I get them off that stupid food. You stupid vets feed them. Then you do surgery. Then you've got them on painkillers for the rest of their life. That is insane." And I'm thinking, well, I just graduated from UC Davis. It's supposed to be a good vet school, and nobody mentioned this. And she took pity on me after a while because I explained my ignorance. I didn't know anything about, dogs and cats, really. I just knew about wildlife. And then it kind of clicked. I go, God, I never saw, wild dogs suffering like this. Wild dogs eat real food. So I started to think about it on the long drive home. And so I thought, I have nothing to lose. I'm going to call up all the people I've recommended new hips to, have them try this food recipe and see what happens. And there was a big waiting list to get the surgery done. Only one guy could do it in the 80s. And after 30 days, every single dog was running and jumping and never had surgery. I couldn't believe it. But I was ecstatic. I'm going, God, I was going to put these guys through painful, expensive surgery. And here they're just going to the grocery store and getting turkey burgers, hamburgers, colorful vegetables, and a few supplements. And I go, there's no drug on earth that can do that. And so I found out there was a holistic vet group, found a layman's book at the library in San Clemente, and learned there was a holistic vet group. So I started writing letters, would this diet work? Just hand wrote. And they all, there were 5 people I wrote to. They all wrote back or even called and said, "Welcome to the dark side, but it's a lot of fun." And so I started recommending to all our patients to eat real food and not eat what we were taught in school, which was scientifically formulated food, and never give table scraps. And here I'm telling them, give the same food you feed your family, some meat, usually 50 to 60% meat. Cats get 80% meat because they're carnivores, and then about 40% veggies and different colors. And And people were astonished. And so were we at the clinic. These pets would come back in a month and they'd be all healed. And I'd go, holy moly, that's just magic. And a lot of the clients said, you got to write this down. Nobody knows this. And in the 80s, it wasn't well known. I was sort of a joke of a vet. Oh, you go see Dr. Coward, he'll give you brown rice and, and tofu. And so I thought one of these days I'll do it. But I was busy. I surfed every morning because I'm stuck indoors all day. I hated being indoors. But if I surfed in the morning, I went to work happy. And I loved being inside a vet clinic. I had no idea what type of people work there. They're just the most wonderful people in the world, happy, caring, loving to be with animals. And I became one of them. Instead of spending my life on the savannah, I was inside all day and loving it. And then clients would ask, will this work for us? They'd see what it did to their cat, dog, or bird or turtle. And I go, I'm not sure. But I'd been a vegetarian since I was 20. I was studying to be a yoga teacher in Australia. I had a real life Indian guru who chose to live in Australia after she was crowned enlightened, so to speak. And so I had to become a vegetarian in the land of grass-fed beef and just kind of stuck with it. So I'd eaten pretty healthy most of my life. But then I developed autoimmune disease I'm not sure when I developed it, was diagnosed, about 14 years ago, celiac disease. And the only way I could get better was to, really modify my diet and learn to sleep. I've been constantly burning the candle at both ends all through college. As a teacher and basketball player in Australia and vet school, I worked a couple jobs. And so I had to learn to try to sleep 7 hours, manage. I never really had a problem managing stress. I'm not very stressed, but turns out a lot of the things I was doing were stress busters. I was surfing early in the morning at dawn. I meditated, did yoga, and so that part wasn't too bad, but the food thing. So I had to really not eat anything that was processed. And at a vet clinic, people bring in cakes and bagels, donuts all the time. So I had to give up all those and basically isolate myself for a week and fast and then just eat a real strict diet. And at that point, I was pretty crippled. I couldn't even go upstairs. I couldn't lift a book up. I hurt all over. And magically, after a week, all the pain stopped except for one basketball injury in my hip. And I thought, God, I think I better write about this because so many people are getting joint replacement without ever trying a diet that tries to remove arthritis. I said, I've got to do this and try to help not only pets, but people. By now, a lot of people hear about ultra-processed food. It's not quite the novelty it was in the 80s, but I still get 5 clients a day that are been not indoctrinated in kibble, and their pets are suffering from inflammation, itchy skin, joints, diarrhea, and I tell them, but just try the food. In 30 days, you should see a pretty dramatic improvement. And in people too, I started going to human medical conferences for what are called integrative MDs, and they all were really sick. And the only way they got better was to change their diet, do yoga, exercise. So that was music to my ear. I went to many meetings on autoimmune disease. And I found they were doing all kinds of studies on animals I never heard about that were benefit to my patients, all these rat experiments. I'm going, gee, many. If you put the microbiome or the bacteria of an old rat into a young rat, the young rat gets old, but vice versa. If you put the bacteria in the intestines of a young rat and an old rat, you get them young. And I go, God, I can start doing this. People love their rats. They'll do anything for them. We can do fecal transplants on rats. So finally, I sat down to write the book, and I thought I learned more through stories than just quoting scientific facts. So I just wrote stories of how animals have healed, and then how people, including myself, have healed, and sort of the things I've stumbled into. I guess serendipity is the best way I can refer to it. And then when I got done, I had 590 pages, so I made it into 2 books. And the second book will be kind of up your alley, more metaphysics. And people ask me all the time about their pets dying. Will they go to heaven? I go, I'm just a neighborhood vet. I don't know. But I was curious, so I investigated that quite a bit and found, certainly they do go to heaven, which is reassuring to people. A lot of the people could care less if they go to heaven, but they want to make sure their pets go to heaven, which I found quite interesting. So that's all in book 2, all the stuff I studied there. Book 1's educational about healing. I put charts for food therapy in the back. People who suffer with autoimmune disease like me, things that can be easily done to treat autoimmune disease without drugs, since most of it starts with a battered intestinal tract like mine was. So sorry about the long answer, Richard. It took many years, 30, 40 years of kind of being a vet and being 70 years of a human to put it all together. A lot of mistakes I made.
Well, I'll tell you, it's first of all, I appreciate the extended answer because that's part of what it's all about, is hearing from the guest. I've noticed more and more commercials on television promoting what will put on the label whole or real foods. Keep it in the refrigerator. I suppose you could, if you wanted to, you could heat it up. That gets the aroma going and so forth. I don't know. Maybe for a dog, that might be a good thing. I don't know about cats and so forth. That seems to be, I want to say, presently the trend, but I have a feeling that it really isn't a trend, that's actually been around as long as we've had domesticated animals in our homes, and going back maybe hundreds, if not thousands of years. So it's really, we're coming back to what we know works, aren't we?
Yeah, that's a great observation. And in reality, dogs have been living and eating with people for anywhere from 10 to 20,000 years. And so they were the first real creature to suffer from the ultra-processed food industry. Dogs are given ultra-processed food every meal, every day for the rest of their life. And that's why at least I saw so many sick patients. I wanted to be a wellness doctor and keep dogs out of the vet clinic and keep them healthy like I plan to do with wildlife. So I was really frustrated with seeing so many sick animals, but it turned out it was related to the food. And so fortunately, people don't generally eat all processed food like pets do. Pets aren't given a choice. They eat what we give them. Mm-hmm. But in reality, you're absolutely right. They've just been eating what the families have been eating all these years, since primitive, Paleolithic times when dogs were guarding the village, and they didn't have to go out and kill and work for a living. They knew they'd be provided for. And so they heal so quickly. 30 days is usually what I see, sometimes less. And it turns out people, if they go on the ancestral diet, will feel dramatically better in 30 days too. And I'm quoting MDs, not myself on that. And now I do see ads all the time for real food on TV as opposed to ultra-processed kibble. And it's a great trend. I'm super happy about that.
Now, there is, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. There is a little bit of a downside, at least from an observational perspective, and that downside is it can get kind of expensive, can't it? I mean,
yeah. Well, I try to simplify it.
Yeah.
I get a lot of guys who are single. They love their dog. They've never cooked in their life, but they love their dog. So I just send them to the grocery store, and most of my patients are inflamed or ill. And in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, I took a week-long course. The best food to reduce inflammation for protein is turkey burgers. And then we use anti-inflammatory, colorful fruits and vegetables, just one of each color. Like for green, we use broccoli. For orange, carrots or sweet potatoes. For white, we use apples. Just simple things. And to keep it even simpler, I just tell them to get frozen veggies and some frozen fruit and just thaw it out overnight in the refrigerator and heat it up for 40 seconds in the microwave. And frozen food is very healthy and it's cheap. So it's way cheaper to go to the grocery store and feed your dogs that way than either to buy processed food or, unfortunately, the commercial foods that are fresh are much more expensive, but there's just no substitute for getting really fresh food at the grocery store or frozen fruit if you're, a busy person like yourself. and it works great. Cats respond really, really well. They get 80% meat and 20% chopped up veggies. And it's just dramatic in 30 days how much better cats look and then how long they live. I was pretty lucky. We had a staff member, I put her in the book, Gail Pope, is now at a sanctuary called Bright Haven, but she'd seen these cats get so much better. She decided to have a sanctuary for unwanted cats or people who got deployed or divorced or died. And she said, I'm going to feed them all your diet, Dr. Doug. I said, okay. And she was a beautiful woman, English, charming. So I just thought she'd raise funds for this. But she was working at 5 a.m. feeding. And pretty soon her cats are living into their 20s and 30s. And this was mind-boggling. So I've been associated with her since the early 90s. So I've seen how healthy cats can live. I was taught in vet school 13 years is really good. But I've changed my tune. We hope for 20 or 30 if they can get off processed food, exercise like your cats do, run up and down 3 floors, and live with a great person with lots of loving kindness like yourself.
Well, I'll tell you, it is sometimes a little disconcerting when we hear them racing up and down the stairs and across the floor. And of course, my wife is of a mind that, she doesn't want them to hurt themselves. And I say, I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to be just fine. And it's what they do. It's just what they do is they race around and they have a blast. And you couldn't ask for anything better. It also helps. It frees us up because I know that there are some, I guess you might call them sort of training booklets or books or videos and those kinds of things where you want to get that long stick and there's a string hanging down with a little toy and you want to play with them, give them lots of exercise. Well, we don't really have to do that. We just set them loose in 1,500 square feet and they are exercising to beat the band. And then, of course, they'll come up on the bed and they'll sleep. We do have one that sleeps separate from the other 2 sometimes. We have this box up in the closet that has yet to be unpacked, but he likes it. So we are very careful about what we take out of it, and we let them be who they are. I want to talk a little bit about that as we continue. We're talking with Dr. and a vet, Dr. Doug Coward, here on the program that is focusing here today on his book, his work, and that has to do with the website, Healing Both Ends of the Leash, and that's a .com. We'll be linked to that as well. That's the title of the book, and you're listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan. We're here with Dr. Doug Coward, and we're talking about his book, and the website is healingbothends.com. That's the title of the book as well, without the .com. You want to get a copy of it. It's not a real big tome. It's actually, it almost looks as though it's a sort of a children's book of sorts, just because of the way that it's formatted. I really like it. It's very cool, especially the cover. Who was your illustrator? I'm curious.
Well, I've taken a lot of heat for that. Some people have said that's the most stupid cover they've ever seen. Others, they like it. So I drew it on a napkin on a Southwest Airlines flight, and then I gave it to one of my neighbors. His daughter's a graphic artist and a surfer, and so she drew it. And it's kind of how I start my morning. I start my morning on the beach. That's called Trestles in San Clemente. And I then meditate afterwards, and I go to work with all those things on the end of the leash. And there's all these healing properties that come from being near and by the water. I didn't know it. I just knew surfing made me feel good. You're up in Santa Barbara, so you probably hear the term stoked all the time. Surfers go, I'm so stoked, the waves were good. And it turns out you get all these incredible benefits in the brain. You get brain-derived neurotrophic factor, brain fertilizer from active exercise in the ocean. And then you get the benefit of walking on the earth. It's actually called earthing. And it has a bunch of negatively charged ions that neutralize free radicals in the body. So that helps. And I'd ride my bike through a forest to get there, which I'd get the benefit of forest bathing or all the phytochemicals in the air. And so by the time I got out of the ocean, I was blissed out, so to speak, to go to the job rated #1 in suicide. So I tried to put that on the cover, where yoga's been a great benefit to me. Being by the ocean's been a great benefit. And all the other ends of the leashes on there have a story. Every single one is a patient, actually. There's a barn owl on my shoulder that was a client named Stacy O'Brien. She actually wrote a bestseller about that barn owl called Wesley the Owl. The other birds, my cockatoo that my wife hand raised, and each of them's a patient with a story in the book. But some people have said that's the wimpiest, cover I've ever seen. It looks like a cartoon, and I thought, oh well, it's mine, and I'll do better on book 2.
Well, here's what you tell them. At least I'm published.
Thanks to self-publishing.
That's right. I too am self-published as well. My favorite review was from my mother, who said, first of all, congratulations on getting your book published. Second of all, I learned things about you I always wanted to know. And I thought, I need to call my mom a little more often, And I know that this isn't your memoir per se. I get that. But still, it's an outgrowth of who you are. I want to talk a little bit about that more here on the program as we talk more with Doug Coward, Dr. Doug Coward, and his book, which is Healing Both Ends of the Leash. Isn't that interesting the way you put that? I like it, and we'll talk about that and many other things here on the program that gives you choices and knowledge of those choices. Tell me your story. New paradigms for a new world. That's the general theme of the program that we try to bring your way. We're talking with Dr. Doug Coward and his book, Healing Both Ends of the Leash. And it's healingbothends.theleash.com. We'll be linked to that on both the podcast and videocast. I want to ask you a little bit about this, the title, because obviously it seems, I was going to say it's implied. It's more than implied there that you're talking about healing both the pet, whether they have a leash or not, as well as the one holding the other end of the leash, and that's the human. And I've never been able to define who's who here. You've got, let's just say you've got a dog. And I want to say, and its owner is holding a leash. But that's not entirely true, because animals find us, okay? All of the animals that we have ever had have found us. We started with our cats after my wife and I got together back in 1998. There was this pregnant female, and we took her into the garage to give her a space to give birth. And we gave 3 of the 4 away, and we kept the 4th and named him Merlin. He also did play a few disappearing acts throughout his lifetime. When we were looking for some new additions to our family there in Phoenix, when we were living there, we drove over to the Humane Society, and there were people who were in the dumpster, and we're going, what the heck's going on there? Someone had dumped some just newborn kittens in that dumpster outside the Humane Society of all places. Well, of course, we took the two kittens that were there. We took them and took them home. And so this is the process that we've been going through. Talk to us about who's who here, because when I meet, let's say I was to meet you and you're walking your dog, I'm going to ask you your name before saying, and what's your dog's name? But everybody always, oh, what's the dog's name? Before they ever address you. Who's who here in the relationship, in the dynamic? Because I don't know that we're really owners of the animals.
Yeah, that's a really good question and observation. Certainly when I walk my dog, everybody stops, asks questions, or makes some observations. And in fact, in my neighborhood, I often didn't have a name. I was just either Rudy's owner or Nate's owner, so to speak. Everybody knew my dog's names, but a lot of times, if there were somebody I just barely met, they would get my dog's name, but that's more important than my name. And if I walk around by myself, nobody pays any attention. But you have a dog on the leash, and it's an instant conversation starter. I'm the same. I'll stop people all the time and admire their dogs. And no matter what patient or critter it is, it just is a conversation starter. And nowadays, I notice if I go to the hospital or somewhere, in particular at Scripps in San Diego, they have all these dogs that are there that people can pet for comforting themselves. And they're stressed out to the max. There's oncology wards or surgery wards, and they bring the dogs to people so they can pet them. Same at airports now too. So it's more in book 2, but I got exposed to animal communicators, which I didn't know they existed. But I guess they do, and they have an insight into the world that I certainly don't. But they said every creature has a job or wants to have a job. And so in most cases, their job is to take care of us. And that's what they believe, and that's what they do. Or I had one cat that I was told was a healer, and she was a rescue like your cats, last chance rescue. There was 2 for the price of none. They said there was a cat, and it turned out she had kittens, so I took them all. And they all wanted to sleep on my face, and I was allergic to them. So they lived at the clinic. And one would just sort of saunter up every day and sit in a box that was in the shape of a cheese. The client made it for her. And she passed away at an early age of mesothelioma, which is almost unheard of in cats. The only person I heard of it was the great actor, whose name I can't even think of right now, Steve McQueen. And I'd never heard of it in a cat. And I was devastated. I got here, I'm taking the best care I can of this kitty, and she's dead at 12 of mesothelioma. And about 2 weeks later, a gal came in, and she was a very professional German gal. She had a big company, nutritional supplements, and she said, God, I'm so sorry that Brittany died. My husband told me. And I said, yeah, I'm bummed. I'm so sad. And she says, she had a wonderful life as a healer. She loved her job. I go, what? Brittany had a job. She just showed up and ate and slept all day. She said, no, she tried to heal every patient that came in. She loved being a healer. Unfortunately, it took away a lot of her energy, and she died young, but she died happy, having a life of purpose. I'm going, holy moly. You're either a wacko or you got something that I don't have, some insight. And I got to know her a little bit better. And she said, call me if you ever get an emergency and don't know what to do. And I have a nice gal I knew quite well. And for a long time, she was a rough, tough horsewoman from San Juan Capistrano, suffering from cancer, never complained at all. But her dog came in, really, really thin, horrible diarrhea. But obviously lovingly cared for. There wasn't a spot of stool on that dog, yet she was shooting diarrhea every 20 minutes. And she said, I don't want her to suffer, doc, what should we do? And here she's suffering in pain, but she said, I'm too tough to die. I don't care what those docs say. I'm going to keep riding my horse if all my bones break. But she did not want this dog to suffer. And I looked at the dog, and the dog looked at me, Belle, with these golden eyes that spoke to my soul. I can't explain it. And I go, ugh. So I did what no vet should do. I got on the phone and I called up the German gal. I said, this is weird. I said, this dog is really, really having a tough time physically, but there's something about these eyes. And she said, I can connect with her. Just put the phone down. So I had one of my most entertaining receptionists go talk to her for a while I'm pretending to be looking in medical textbooks. And after a while, she gets, me back on the phone, says, do not euthanize that dog. She says she's got to stay with this woman because the woman's an alcoholic. And as long as she's caring for her, she doesn't drink. And that's important for her health. The dog says, I'm just a shell. Don't worry about me. Inside, I'm just perfect. She said, please keep me alive as long as you can, because she'll stay alive that way too. I'm going, holy moly, what am I going to do? I'm a scientist. So I went into the room and said, we can use Nutrigestin colostrum. We can fix the leaky gut if we can, and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, She did, and she lived a long time. And unfortunately, I was away at a meeting, and we had a friend of mine working that day, and he took one look at the dog and euthanized it. And I came back. I go, "Oh no, we're going to lose this woman to alcoholism." But when she lost the dog, she said, "Does anybody need a home?" And we actually had a cat, instead of euthanizing, I realized had diabetes, which is treatable just with food. And the owner said, you can do what you want, but we can't get her to eat real food. And we're tired of giving injections. We think the cat's suffering. So I kept the kitty, and we switched her food. And within 3 weeks, she was eating real food. And like in people with type 2 diabetes, it's totally foodable. Doesn't need to be druggable. Just change the food. And same with these poor people who are addicted to ultra processed food and have diabetes. If they just would eat real food, in most cases, it's completely reversible. So she adopted this cat named Ruby, and Ruby lived a long time. And the gal died related to her cancer, but not an alcoholic. So those two, the dog saved her life, and Ruby the kitty did too. And I would never have mentioned that, but now that I'm 70, I'm going to write this down anyway. It's a wild, wonderful world we live in with all these animals having jobs to do. And the worst thing that can happen to them is to not have a job, to be stuck alone all day, and not have a family with them. So it's a magical, really wonderful world out there if we're aware that these guys have a purpose, and they like to heal us to keep us happy. And if we're not happy, they're not. They actually feel our stress. Somebody in one book, I think it was called The Longevity Dog, advised veterinarians to take a shower before they start playing with their dogs to get rid of all the stress of the day, because the dogs sense our cortisol levels being super high, and then their cortisol levels rise, and they get all the consequences of stress. So it's true. Again, sorry about the long-winded answer, Richard.
Not at all. This is about you today and what you have to share. I can relate to some of these. We had a cat that we got from ASAP there in Goleta, California, and we got him literally at 8 days old. And my wife would hand feed him. She had one of those fuzzy pillow kind of cone-shaped things that she would have him in her hand. And then she would take a little bottle and she would feed him. And as he grew, he was a big cat by the time, he grew up to adulthood. But we called him Rupert. I named him Rupert from the character, or actually the stuffed animal, from Stewie, the Family Guy character who had the teddy bear who we called Rupert. Anyway, Rupert became what we referred to as first our $3,000 cat, and then $6,000 cat, because he got it twice. What we would call for humans kidney stones.
Oh gosh!
For a cat, it's crystals, and for a male cat, it's even worse. In any event, it was also when we found out and began, and still do to this day, we only drink and give our cats distilled water. They get the minerals from the foods that we feed them, but we drink and they drink. And of course, people say, well, yeah, but what about the minerals? We get the minerals from the food we eat or the other beverages that we drink and so forth. And we do try to eat healthfully, and we try to buy them good. I mean, I'm the kind of guy, Doc, that I cringe at the price of stuff sometimes. But I've gotten to the point where, what's the point of grumbling? You're either going to buy it or you're not. And if you're going to buy it, there is no grumbling. You're doing it not just for you, but for them as well when it comes to buying the food for the animals and so forth. And that's something we'll talk about here. I know you've mentioned it a little bit, but I want to maybe dive into a little bit of some of the other ingredients that we might consider. I've thought about this, and I'm curious as to your thoughts. And we'll find out more about what he has to say when it comes to cats in particular. We're looking for a puppy. We used to have, my wife had the 4 Siberians. My ex-wife had our dog. His name was Alfie. He was a border collie mix. Unfortunately, when we brought him over, the herd, or the pack of four Siberian Huskies, did not care for him, to the extent they were separated by a fence. And of course, my dog was roaming around the yard salivating, so we knew he was afraid. So I couldn't take him with us. Then, of course, they started to pass. The four started to pass on, and we ended up taking the last one, the child. His name was Chemo. He was the biggest of them, back to Santa Barbara with us, which I think gave him an extra year or two of life. Along with him, we had another beautiful white dog, my dog, Makushla. I got the name from the movie with Clint Eastwood and that one gal. And then we got another dog from PetSmart. Before we moved to Santa Barbara, I said, no, we're moving. This isn't fair to the dog. And she's, no. So we ended up getting Connor. He was a shepherd chow mix with that curly tail. And then when Chemo and Connor passed, we had Makushla. We got Angus, who was our last dog, and she raised him from 8 weeks. So we've been through quite a number of animals, and it's been one of the greatest experiences, as is this conversation we're having with Dr. Doug Coward and his book, Healing Both Ends of the Leash, as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Doc, I want to ask you, in terms of what we can find in your book, we have, for example, tins of tuna and or chicken, and so forth. And we do buy occasionally frozen vegetables like frozen peas and spinach and things like that. We do try to get the produce. We have a farmer's market up here where we live. And I'm just wondering, are any of the things that I've mentioned that we have in our pantry, we did, by the way, try the can of tuna, and they wouldn't touch it. So that particular tuna, maybe what we need to do is go down to the harbor and get ourselves kind of a fillet of tuna and bring it home. It's that it's fresh. Well, what about that in terms of those kinds of things? Cats are carnivores, is that correct?
Yeah, they're pretty much obligate carnivores. They need meat to live. I've only had one vegetarian cat. The lady was a smart lady, high school principal. She'd been kicked out of 5 vet clinics because she insisted on making her cat a vegetarian too. When I got the cat out of the cage, he bit the heck out of me and started licking my blood. He was so starving for real food. But, I helped her and she kept it going. But cats are designed to eat mice and rats. And if they just ate mice and rats, they'd live 30 years easily. Obviously, I'm a rat vet and a mouse vet, so I don't want one species eating the other. It just goes against my background. But most human food is way better than any cat food. Unfortunately, the pet food industry is not well regulated. They have what's called AFCO. These are the standards set for getting farm animals to slaughter at a year of age, and they're the minimum ingredients needed. So if a food says it's AFCO standard, you're realizing you're giving them the bare minimum. And I want my patients to get the best food so they live the longest and have the least problems. So certainly tuna from the market is great. We worry about mercury, so you definitely want to buy tuna for people, not for cats, because it's much more regulated. There's canned salmon, canned turkey. All that is great. There's all kinds of frozen meats. In terms of Chinese medicine, turns out chicken is very inflammatory, and turkey and hamburger is anti-inflammatory, turkey being the most. I knew that with my own dogs. My daughter's a culinary arts high school teacher in San Diego, and she would bring home leftover chicken sometimes from school, and my dogs got raging diarrhea, shooting it all across the room. Yet when they ate turkey, they were just fine. I couldn't figure that out because they're both poultry. When I took the week-long course, it all made sense. Somehow in traditional Chinese veterinary medicine, they figured out the energetics of food. And so in the back of my book is a chart on which foods to give pets, dogs and cats especially, depending on what their condition is. There's foods for completely healthy dogs. Then there's foods which most of my patients are suffering from inflammation, arthritis, or diarrhea, or bad skin. And then there's a chart for seniors who need to get blood circulating. There's a section on cancer, which is just simple grocery store foods. It has potent anti-cancer properties, broccoli and parsley, organic chicken, not grocery store chicken. If you get organic chicken, then it can have some anti-cancer effects, turkey being the most. So food is just magic out there. And the more processed it is, two things happen in ultra-processed food like kibble. The high temperature of heating creates these waste products called activated glycation end products. I say they make the animal age, AGE, I call them age. And then it also has preservatives to keep the food from spoiling, but it also damages the essential friendly bacteria that's in the intestinal tract. We've got, at least humans probably have 7 pounds of hard-working bacteria that benefit us greatly, and you damage those bacteria, our whole system falls apart. There's a connection in animals and in humans between the brain and the gut. And you have a healthy gut, you can have a healthy brain. And likewise, if your gut's in bad shape and the bacteria are all wrong or upside down, then things aren't working so well. And so the preservatives damage that. So just by giving real food, you've eliminated activated glycation end products, and you've eliminated those harmful preservatives, and you've got a much healthier microbiome, or all the friendly bacteria, and 70 to 80% of the immune system's in the intestinal tract. So you got a huge head start on healing by giving real food and eliminating ultra-processed food. So that was a really good question, Richard.
Well, I tell you, it's one of the things that, like, for example, as of this conversation, my wife and I, we are going to be, when I finish my final conversation here on the program, which is probably another hour and a half away, we will be going to the grocery store. And it's not that we need to buy cat food because we have plenty of the dry, but at the same time, we do like to give them treats. So I'm thinking, okay, well, let's pick up a few things. And we don't want to, as much as I would love to stock up Costco volume in the cupboard for the cats, they don't eat that much at one time. Dogs, that's a whole nother thing. But, it's like, okay, well, let's just get a couple of sprigs of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I guess one of the things that we need to learn to do, Doc, is we need to learn to give them small portions of these to see if they, as individuals, will even eat this stuff. Is it appropriate to feed these things to them and, in a manner of speaking, almost force them to eat it by saying, this is all you're getting for the next 24 hours. You either eat this or you won't have anything. That doesn't seem the best logical way to approach the process of putting them on what we'll call whole foods or a real food diet.
Yeah, it's a really good question. With dogs, it's no problem. Dogs will eat their vomit, they'll eat their poop, they'll eat a rock, they'll eat a dirty sock. So once dogs get a taste of real food, they actually refuse the kibble. Cats are a whole different world. We kind of, we say dogs drool and cats rule, and we're the servants to cats. So we've been able to get almost 99% of the cats to switch, but cats are like humans. They get food addicted, and they, I'm sure, have ingredients in cat food that keeps cats addicted to it. And they do not want to change in some cases. And so we actually, even though I'm a holistic vet, we drug them. And I learned this from at a holistic meeting on kidney disease in cats. And first the lecturer says, if anybody's still offering kibble to their clients, get out of this exam. And I'm going, well, not all my patients will eat it. So I'm slinking in my seat. But the gal next to me is braver, says, how do you get a cat to change who doesn't want to? And the gal goes, well, you drug them, of course. I'm going, this is a holistic conference, and you're telling us to drug these cats. So she had learned that from Temple Grandeur, the autistic woman.
Yes.
And Temple Grandeur has done just a world of good on animal behavior. She's got an insight, being autistic, into cats and animals' behavior. And she says, I'm like a cat. If I don't take my autism medicine, I want to be in a squeeze cage in a dark room all day. But if I take my medication, I can go teach vet students how to be humane towards animals. So we started giving drugs that sort of either stimulate the appetite or take away anxiety in the brain. Some were Valium derivatives, and then the cats will eat their food. And after a couple of weeks, they all are eating their food just fine. And yeah, absolutely what you suggested is perfect. Just start with a little bit. Really, dogs, it's not a big deal. But with cats, boy, you give them new food, they look at you like, are you kidding me? I am not going to touch that. But if you offer them just a little piece of something, something especially smelly like meat, usually they'll take it. And I remember traveling when I was in Italy. I only wanted to see wild places, but my wife likes Europe. And so we would be out on these islands, Sardinia in particular, and guys would come out with pasta and just set it down, and all these feral cats would leap on it and inhale it. And then I'd seen other little coastal villages in Greece or Italy where the fishermen come in, they just throw the cats a few things of food. There'll be 20 cats waiting for these little fishing boats to come in and just annihilate the food. So intuitively, cats do want to eat real food, but they get food addicted by the food industry, unfortunately. So it can make it hard. So your thoughts just to start with a little are perfect. And if it doesn't work, I'll send you a prescription for some drugs to help it along.
What about mixing a little bit of the new stuff in with the old kibble or the food that you're giving them? Will cats sort of respond saying, oh, well, okay, this is a little different, but it does smell an awful lot like what I like?
Oh, I'm sorry, I lost the ability to hear.
What about putting a little bit of some of these new foods, these whole foods, into their existing kibble, as far as sort of weaning them onto the new stuff by mixing it in with the old?
Oh, that's great too. It's not all or nothing. If you're a really, really busy person, kibble is so much easier. I get that. So is McDonald's and all of those. It's convenient and easy, and people are busier than ever these days. So, I tell them when they look at me like, I just don't have time. I say, just throw an egg, on the kibble, or throw some hamburger or turkey burgers or banana or apple out. Just do the best you can. Even a little bit goes a long way. It's like us eating dessert. Most people have some dessert and it doesn't kill them or anything like that. It makes them happy. And certainly mixing it up is just fine. Just the more real food they eat, the more benefit they get.
Well, I'll tell you, we when the Girl Scouts were selling their Girl Scout cookies, about 4 or 5 boxes, put them in the freezer, and we would have one, not every evening, but if we were going to have some Girl Scout cookies, we only had one, whether it was the peanut butter or the mint chocolate or whatever it was. We just had one, and we spread it out over several weeks or a month or more, which was great because we got to have that wonderful little flavor, little taste, and that's all we needed. And because we're trying to both watch our health and so forth.
Well, you're a better man than me. I had daughters, they had Girl Scout cookies, and I'd eat the whole thing, the whole package of those. And I realized I was food addicted too. Yeah. I preferred a hit of sugar to anything. And I had to realize I had to, break that addiction. That's not easy to do. I even wrote a whole chapter in my book on food addiction because so many people were like me, where I would unfortunately find they have cancer or really bad autoimmune disease. And I'd be so excited to tell them, gosh, if you just start eating real food, you can cure it. And they'd go, I'm not giving up beer and pizza, or I'm not giving up cake, or I'm not giving up this. And I thought, I don't understand that. Don't you want to get well? So for me, it was easy. With celiac disease, I either gave up gluten or I would die. Yeah, and so that's pretty easy to make that. But with things that aren't quite so obvious, like Hashimoto's, or there's quite a few autoimmune diseases. It doesn't kill you, but it, just it compromises the life. But so many people didn't want to give it up. So I go, yeah. Then I, got involved in the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala and the battle of the brain, and it was quite interesting. And kind of how to solve addiction with food addiction and with people. So I put that in my book as well. Again, I'm not a human MD or psychologist, but when you get to be 72 and you meet a lot of people, you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't.
Kind of like Dad. When we're growing up, Dad doesn't know nothing. But as Dad gets older, we begin to realize, Dad really does know some stuff. I need to listen to him. My father once said, I think he denied it, but my late father said, eat, drink, and be merry in moderation, because nobody gets out of this world alive. The question is, how long do you want to live? Now, this is my part. The question is, how long do you want to live? And if you want to live that long, do you want to have a quality life as opposed to quantity? And I want quality and quantity if I can get it. And that's why I'm doing everything. And I give my mother, who is still alive today, I give her all of the credit in the world for the health that I do have. I'm still dealing with certain issues, but she tried everything back in the 60s as I was a little kid growing up into the 70s to feed us well. She made her own yogurt, believe it or not,
No, my mom.
which was fantastic. Oh, she would make this orange yogurt. She would put it into ice trays, put toothpicks in the ice tray, and then put that in the freezer. And in the summertime, oh man, the first time wasn't so great, but it kind of grew on you. You got used to it, and then going, what do you mean there are no more orange yogurt popsicles?
No wonder you look so good.
They were, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. This conversation is fascinating to me because, and there is so much to talk about. We had chickens, and as much as I wanted to take them like to the vet if there was a problem, I was concerned about the fact that their eggs would no longer be organic the moment they were injected with something that would help them. But I would have to say that our chickens were very healthy overall, and we're still trying to figure out how to have chickens up here. I have heard somebody's rooster up here in Twin Peaks not too long ago, which means somebody does have chickens up here. But we couldn't bring the ones that we had from Santa Barbara because, well, we were coming up a good 4,000 feet, and I had read where you do not want to move chickens. You can move them laterally, but you don't want to move them from one lower level to a higher level because that can actually damage them. Case in point, when we moved here for the first 2 or 3 days, I was very dizzy, and then I found out that there's such a thing as altitude sickness. And eventually the body does acclimate. Can you imagine the delicate systems of little animals, whether they be rodents or cats or chickens or whatever, to being brought up a good 4,000 feet above sea level from the 2,000 feet that we were in the mountains above Santa Barbara. So that's something that you need to take a look at, and I'm sure there's a way to acclimate animals to the different altitudes and so forth. But our cats are all indoor. That's another element that maybe we'll save for another program. I'd love to have you back again to talk about the mindset of people thinking that it's okay to have indoor outdoor animals of any kind, cats especially where you and I live. I mean, I live up here it's not exactly the wilderness, but I'm sure that as spring sets in, we're going to see more wildlife up here. I heard there was a den of coyotes down the hill from us, maybe 200, 300, 400 feet from our home, but there are other homes along the ridge here. And when we first moved to Santa Barbara, I built this dog run, and our two dogs, we kept them outside in this dog run. And after we started bringing them inside and they became indoor dogs, we looked at each other going, how in the world did we ever think that leaving them out in that dog run like that was a good thing? I mean, and I put tarps out to cover them when it rained and reinforced and this and that and the other. But I'd love to talk about that maybe on another program about whether or not our animals belong outside on a continuous basis, um, or if we need to rethink that whole thing regardless. Because, you and I were seeing on the news, there was a guy who had a bear under his house for like several months before they were able to get him out. And this was as we were heading into December and early January out here in the San Bernardino County area. And so we're getting wildlife that's moving into the cities. So I think that's a subject we might want to talk about. Is that something you can address?
Yeah, certainly COVID changed a lot of things because people weren't out and the wildlife population started moving into the cities. And in the area I live, there is no such thing as an outdoor cat. We have coyotes, bobcats, and mountain lions that are close by. And so once in a while, I'll get a cat that's actually been they say an outdoor cat, but in reality, they come indoors at night probably, and they're super smart because those coyotes are so clever. Yeah. And it's just a different world. When I first moved down from Long Beach, I was doing emergency work, and they said, Long Beach is a city. The only thing we saw there was high-rise syndrome on cats, where they would go out of 12 stories and survive, which was amazing. They fan out like a parachute, and they do better surviving at high-rise than they do at two floors. And that was novel to me. But then when I was starting working in South Orange County, I thought they were joking when we saying we've got a coyote attack, a rattlesnake bite coming in, and then another coyote attack. And I'd look at them like, you're joking. They go, no, this happens all the time. So you have to really be wary. I hate to tell you how many patients I've lost to coyotes, little dogs. We've even lost some other small animals to owls, eagles that just come down and swoop down on them. So you have to be vigilant. It is out there. And so I found our animals are quite happy to come inside as long as they get outdoor exercise, long walks and things. Dogs are like us. They've been used to working 8 miles a day minimum as, hunter-gatherers, so they don't do well. In fact, you're amazing, and you've had all working dogs, border collies, Siberian huskies. Those dogs have to work every day or they tear your house to pieces. And it's tough when you live in an apartment with one of those because they go crazy. They need a job, and so they figure out, let's tear the house to pieces, which doesn't go over well with people.
Well, we were out playing with Connor once. He was the Shepherd Chow mix, and we were having a good time running around with Makushla, and I guess it got into Connor's head. Well, look at how much fun he's having. So I'm gonna play. And he came running up behind me and kicked my right leg out from under me, and I went flat on my back, knocked the wind out of me, and I just looked at him and laughed because I knew he was playing. For him, that was play. I couldn't be mad at him, So you're absolutely right, And then, of course, bringing new animals into the herd, if you will, or the pack, that's a whole nother subject, too. I'm just fascinated by the conversation about animals and all of the ones that we've had as I've grown into my 60s and still have good strength, and looking forward to our next edition when that happens. We're talking with Doug Coward. He is Dr. Doug Coward. He has a book. We hope that you'll get a copy of it, and we hope that you will go to Healing Both Ends of the Leash.com, Healing Both Ends of the Leash.com. Is it available in Audible yet? Doug, is it available as an Audible?
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, bad ears. As far as I know, it's Kindle and through Amazon and I think a few other bookstores. but not audible yet. I'd have a tough time doing it with my bad hearing, so I'd have to hire someone.
Well, then maybe we should talk because I would love to. I would love to do that with you and put that together. I produce audiobooks as well,
Oh, no kidding.
and it's a lot of fun. I got to tell you, not only do I get to produce someone's book in audible format, but also I get to read someone's book, so I get to dive into that world that we may have talked about on the program. So maybe it's something we'll talk about. We're talking with Dr. Doug Coward, and you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Reverend Dr. D here, and we're talking about healing both ends of the leash. Doctor, I thank you so much. Doug, it's been great to have you on the program and be a part of what we're trying to do to encourage people, certainly to have animals. It's not just good for your health, it's good for their health as well, especially if you now have a sort of a forever friend. Now, dogs and cats don't live as long as we do, of course, but certainly the ending is part of the deal. And we've been through a lot. I have a lot of animals buried out on the property where we used to live in Santa Barbara. But you know what? All of that other stuff before that, it's worth it, in my opinion. It's still not easy, but it is definitely worth it. And we thank you so much for sharing your insights on how we can extend that part before the end, so that we can have some great memories and have a lot of fun in our lives and improve our health too. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on, Richard. You know animals really well. You've had a menagerie, and obviously they've been lucky to share their lives with you. And again, a great honor to be on your program. I'll send you the diet sheet. In the book, it's kind of small, but I'll send you the one that's a little bit easier to read to your email. But thank you so much. It's been just a blast to speak with you and especially hear about your really fascinating life, too.
Well, thank you. I have three final questions that I want to ask you that I ask all of my guests. But before I do, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m. 9 different programs, 9 different times, 9 different topics. We hope that you will listen streaming live at all 9 of those times at richarddugan.com. We're on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and those are the podcasts. We're on video on YouTube and Rumble, and we're expanding all of that too, so that you folks can see and hear our guests and watch the conversation unfold as we are here on Tell Me Your Story. I hope you'll subscribe and also click notification. We also hope that you'll get a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life. It's available on Amazon as well, and it's in a hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And if you are able to do so, we could use all of the financial help we can get. If you can leave us a tip, we have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. And on the homepage at richarddugan.com, we have links to both Amazon and PayPal. And thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, we ask that you take some time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time going within that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. Follow the promptings as well. With all that being said, we move to our guest and our final 3 questions. And the first of those 3 questions is, who is Doug Coward?
I've never been asked that before. Well, I'm a guy who's kind of stumbled through life, made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of dreams, wanted to be a professional basketball player and had a really rough career in college, a lot of injuries, but I ended up getting to play in Australia, which was even better because I loved the ecology there and planned to be an ecologist and got to UC Davis, and that didn't quite work out either. Yeah, it's in the book. I won't go into it, but just stumbled into vet school and to be a wildlife vet, and that didn't quite work out. Ended up in private practice, which has been just a ton of fun. So so many things have gone wrong in my life, but they all ended up okay in the end, just by, I guess, keep stumbling along and saying my prayers at night and the morning, going, I hope this works out. And working with animals has just been a blast. My kids say I live in this happy bubble. I just get up and go surfing in the morning, and I play with puppies and kittens all day. And I go, that's pretty close to the truth, and it's a happy life. And I just hope I can make the world a little bit better place by sharing some of my mistakes and what I've had to do to correct them.
What gets you up in the morning?
Oh, the thought of waves. And I usually go to work, so the only time I can surf is really early in the morning. It turns out to be a magical time. I watch the sun come up. A bunch of guys and now gals are there, and it's chilly. And you wonder why you do it, and get out of bed, and then you think, what's the day going to be like if I don't see what the ocean's like? And there could be dolphins and whales and birds, and you catch a few waves, and I'm just so happy afterwards. So never miss a day where I don't get up excited to see the ocean and then to go play with animals all day. So I also got introduced to meditation in college. I had to take religious studies courses at a Jesuit university. I was just there to, excuse me, play basketball, but I found to graduate with my biology degree, I had to take religious studies. So you mentioned the still voice. I took mysticism, East and West, and read about St. John of the Cross, all the mystics, yogis, Taoism. That was pretty interesting. And then another course, Psychology of Religion. I took a meditation course, which just made me happy. Couldn't explain it at the time, so I did a paper on the physiological and psychological effects of meditation for my senior thesis. And all of these happy hormones, neurotransmitters get created meditating. The stress hormones go down. So I can't wait to meditate every morning, too, because I just feel so good. I mean, I even notice my handwriting's different. When I was a teacher, I noticed I could make it till 3:30 without getting upset at students. If I didn't meditate, I was ready to kill them. And even at work, sometimes they'll go, "Did you meditate today?" I said, "No, I didn't have time." So surfing, meditating, then obviously the family's what makes everything worthwhile. I've got a wife of 46 years and two grown daughters who have kids, so that gets me up too. And I still love being a vet. It's just turned out to be the greatest job I could ever think of not doing. It's a chapter one chapter is the living in a place I vowed never to live, doing a job I vowed never to do, but it's turned out to be a great life. So a lot of things make me happy to get up in the morning.
Well, my final question comes from a movie. You might recognize this. Mitch and his buddies are horseback riding, and Mitch turns to them both and says, I say to you, what was your best day?
That's a really interesting question. And, I thought about that. I don't know why, yesterday. And I thought, I've just lived a million of them. Get up, go surf, see nature, say hi to God, meditating, saying a few prayers, and go to work doing something. I think it's something, I guess the best way to describe it is doing what I love, in the service of others who hopefully are okay the way I do it, and serving others, and selfishly just hanging around a bunch of happy-go-lucky puppies, kittens, birds, snakes, and then the people who work with them. That's been the biggest surprise. Is my brother's an MD. I've got like 8 or 9 MDs in the family, and human hospitals are not quite the happy place. I wanted to do everything I could to stay out of them, but vet hospitals are just filled with really happy, kind, loving people, and so I'll keep going at it as long as I can breathe. It's just been a really fun way of life, and the last thing on earth I ever expected to be doing indoors with pets, so to speak.
Oh.
So that was a good question, and I've had a lot of those good days. I won't go into the bad ones. I had a lot of bad days too, but it's much more fun to talk about the good days.
Oh, sure. Yeah, but we've learned a lot from those bad days as well. And I thank you for being a part of the work that we are doing here on Tell Me Your Story, and appreciate your story. I hope, again, people will go to healingbothends.com. Get your copy of Healing Both Ends of the Leash. And I thank you all for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.